Welcome back to Shat on TV Taboo Edition. My name is Roger Roper. Alongside me are my two co-hosts, Big D Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And Arsenal Gooner fan, Gene Lyons.
Ooh, to be a Gooner.
And this is our first introduction podcast. Let's lock down our spot on iTunes episode of Shat on TV Taboo. Guys, we're fresh off of our final telegraph that we did for Shat on TV Westworld. And our next show that we've established, it's going to be our second show. Are we the serial of review show podcast? Is that what we're trying to be? Is that what's happening here? Yeah,
we're just going to dive deeper than anyone's ever divin before and really get to the core of these things. But I do like, I think that we have a great team of listeners that are going to come with us and really pick this show apart, get to the core of it, the root of it, and there's a lot of interesting questions that we're going to be able to explore that have nothing to do with science or science fiction.
Yeah, and if you just found us by Taboo FX, which is going to be our name, we also do a podcast about Westworld, which was fairly successful. Shat on Westworld, or also Shat the Movies, where we do 80s and 90s films that you loved growing up, and we kind of tear them apart and ruin your childhood memories.
Yeah, and typically the format that we do for the show, if you didn't listen to our Westworld podcast, what we like to do is we like to do an Instacast immediately right after we watch the show. Then we do a deep dive the next day, and then we do like a fan recap, a fan email. We're not sure how popular Taboo is going to be. We're not sure of the size of the audience. We, obviously Westworld really hit a nerve in the world, and we got a lot of listeners. I think over 1 million people followed us in the 10-episode arc, and one of the reasons that we want to do Taboo is it's a limited miniseries, and we love the Nolans. We love Inception. We loved Batman. We loved The Prestige, and a common actor that has been featured in Nolan films is Tom Hardy, and this is his production. He's starring in it. And, in this golden age of television, I'm going to go with the actors that put themselves out on the line. Not only are they producing it, but they're also acting it, and it comes from a story adapted by them.
Absolutely, Roger. I think one of the things we've seen, and people have pointed it out, is that a lot of silver screen actors are moving into TV and doing these amazing projects. And really, TV has not let us down yet. I mean, we had Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey in True Detective Season 1, now Westworld with Anthony Hopkins. And I think that we're, again, going into Taboo. Tom Hardy is an absolute force. If you've seen Mad Max or Bronson, he has the ability to play such a wide variety of roles, but also that exotic role, that madman role that pushes you to points where you're not necessarily uncomfortable, but definitely exhilarated. He's the guy, and so I'm really excited about this show.
I think he also has that ability that I've only seen in Ed Norton, that he has the ability to convey a physicality that his body doesn't always have. Like Ed Norton in American History X. He wasn't that big of a guy, but in that he is this brooding skinhead white supremacist. Tom Hardy, his body, he morphs into all of his characters, whether it's Bane's muscularity, or whether it's in The Revenant, just the wild wilderness man. I have total faith in him, and if he's behind this project, it's going to get the exact same attention that every other project he's in. Can't wait.
One of the things that we took into account in choosing Taboo, as well as just the quality of the production. If you look at trailers for upcoming shows that are coming up, this looks like a movie. It is shot with depth. It is shot beautifully. There's really been investment in it, and Ridley Scott is, again, a name that carries a lot of prestige with it. So I'm excited about that.
Now, we're coming off what is typically the gold standard in America, anyway, for channels and distribution in HBO, right? HBO consistently puts out quality, limited run, dramatic, shows like Westworld, like Game of Thrones, even to a lesser degree, Big D, one of your favorites, The Leftovers. Is there any apprehension on your behalf that FX may not hit this out of the park because it's not HBO?
I'm not worried about it personally because of the fact that FX has put out so many other quality shows that range from campy to deep. And just a couple examples, American Horror Story and The Strain, a little more horror based, but still very entertaining, especially in their early seasons. Fargo, fantastic television show with a lot of depth, and also Louis, showing that they can flex their comedic chops too. I mean, these are all wonderful shows that that really resonate. I think that there will be no problem. Also, I know a lot of the fan base for Westworld was big fans of The Americans, and they referenced that show several times. That's also an FX show. So FX, although not the marquee name that HBO is, they're no slouch when it comes to making good television.
For those of you who don't know what Taboo is, and I'm reading directly from the FX website. It's set in 1814. Taboo follows James Keziah Delaney. He's a man who's been to the ends of the earth and comes back irrevocably changed. Believed to be long dead, he returns home to London from Africa to inherit what's left of his father's shipping empire and rebuild a life for himself. But his father's legacy is a poisoned chalice, and with enemies lurking in every dark corner, James must navigate increasingly complex territories to avoid his own death sentence. Encircled by conspiracy, murder, and betrayal, a dark family mystery unfolds in a combustible tale of love and treachery. And like we said earlier, it's created by Stephen Knight with Tom Hardy and his father Chips Hardy, who's also the consulting producer. Like you said, Gene, executive producers are Ridley Scott and Kate Crow for Scott Free. Tom Hardy is also an executive producer. And for we seem to have a lot of Scandinavian listeners that are fans of the show. Two directors, again, because this is a limited series, it's only going to have two directors, both who are Scandinavians. So hopefully our Swedes that are coming along with us and our fans from Norway, they're going to like this. We talked about it on the Westworld podcast on the Telegraph, that one of the more interesting stories in history is, in my opinion, the East India Trading Company, because at the peak of the East India Company, forgive me if I'm wrong, it was like the third highest GDP in the world. Like it was its own country beyond itself. So when you think of like what's happening in today's world with multinational corporations almost controlling everything, you look back in the 1800s, the East India Trading Company was that powerful monopoly, right?
Right.
So they, some of the reception, some of the quotes for this have come out, and Stephen Knight, again one of the producers and creators of the show, said the East India Company would be depicted as the historical equivalent of the CIA, the NSA, and the biggest, baddest multinational corporation on earth. Now, to some historians, they argued that it would give an excessively negative view of the East India Company. But again, I make the premise, as big fans as I am of Pirates of the Caribbean, nothing good came out of the East India Trading Company, guys. They were all a bunch of privateers, but I'm really looking forward to that. I think that FX is going to do a good job based on some of the trailers that we've seen. Big D and Gene, how can they follow us if they want to come along on this new journey with us in January?
Well, we're hoping they're listening to this podcast, so they will have found the feed, which is Taboo FX. But you can also follow us on all social media channels. We are Shat on TV. You can follow us on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat, Grindr, Tinder. We're everywhere that fun times are found.
Swipe right on us, please.
If you're not familiar with us, we also lean heavily on the audience for participation. And so we do look forward to, if you're the type of person who likes to have their, bounce ideas back and forth and really have a discussion. This isn't a one-way channel. So please, subscribe and also tweet at us, email us at hosts@shatontv.com. But basically, get at us. We love to have a back and forth and love to share your ideas on the show.
Yeah, the first episode will be dropped on FX here in the States, and I assume on BBC One, where it'll also be simulcast, or at least it's appearing overseas, on the 10th. So that's going to be every Tuesday. That'll be the first run. We will do an Instacast immediately after the East Coast, if you're in the States, after the East Coast airing. Then we'll release a deep dive on Wednesday, followed up with a listener email sometime after that, maybe on a Friday or on the following Monday.
Well, I think it's depending on the audience size.
Okay.
With Westworld, we were forced to do it with the size of the audience, we were getting hundreds of emails a week, depending on the size of Taboo. And we don't anticipate it to be that size of a show, but hopefully it is. If there's a way that we can incorporate the emails into the deep dive, we'll do it. So right now it's so far out, but just find us on the Instacast, keep listening to us, and we'll give you more information as we get closer.
Yeah, again, follow us on social media at Shat on TV. We're everywhere fine podcasts can be found, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by iTunes, please be sure to leave a 5-star review. That really will help our podcast grow. You can also check out our store for cool merchandise that really helps keep the lights on. And if there's nothing else to talk about, again, thanks so much for checking us out. On behalf of my co-host Big D, Dick Eber, and Gene Lyons is the Raj. We will see you this season on Shat on TV Taboo. Thanks.